I'm a physicist who wandered into climate and climate policy some 15 years ago. So I do a lot linking science and climate policy. That's my major area of work.
Okay, perfect. So I have three questions for you. The first one is, what are your expectations for this COP26 regarding the carbon emissions reduction equality?
I think in terms of inequality, I think there is a very sharp agenda. India has been very keen to put this issue on the table. But of course, India cannot carry this issue alone, so it will depend how it works. But I think it is sharper than we have seen in shall we say, in previous conference of parties since the Paris Agreement. Okay, but my expectations were not very high. But on the other hand, I think if we don't push back on the question of equity every time they come, then the consequences would be even more serious, even more negative. So, to that extent, it's always important to push back on the question of equity, though eventually various kinds of political compromises are made by governments.
Okay. The second question was, what is your posture regarding the exclusion of the 16th point from the COP26 agenda?
Oh, I think it is so transparent that it is done in bad faith. It is clear that the focus was on equitable, that was very much there, equitable and fair access to carbon space in the background of the target of 1.5 degrees. So to cut out all the rest and keep just 1.5, I think is so transparently perhaps we shouldn't use, given the circumstances that we are trying to cooperate, but it is breeds mistrust and it is in bad faith, and this is unacceptable. So I do hope the LMDC and even other countries will take this up seriously in the rest of the days. Yes.
Fine. And last but not least, if you could explain why would you replace net zero emissions targets by carbon budget emissions targets? So we can understand the main reasons behind your thinking on this matter.
Well, it's very simple. I was telling my own students, what's a simple way to understand it? The carbon budget is limited. So every time you emit, your cumulative emissions are like taking away from the budget. Okay? So those countries which are emitting lots, they are drawing away from the carbon budget rapidly. So it's like, and we know that the carbon budget is limited. There's a remaining carbon budget for 1.5 degrees of 500 gigatons. So you can think of that like a tank of water. And there's only so much. And people have to share it equitably. Now there are these few people who have been taking it as much as they want for whatever reason they want. When some people don't have to drink, probably they're watering their lawns, you don't know. So they've just been taking the water away. So now finally the rest of the world wakes up and says, hey, why don't you stop taking the water out? Earlier perhaps we thought the water was unlimited. Now we know the water is limited. And you say, hey, why don't you stop? Take your share of water. The guy looks at you and says, no. Well, share of water, share of water. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can promise you I'll stop taking water 30 years from now. That's exactly where we are between net zero targets and carbon budget targets. The fact that you are drawing from the budget and it's the cumulative emissions that are responsible for how much warming you're contributing to, and you will contribute also in the future. You avoid that question by simply saying 30 years from now I'll stop emitting. So I think it's not rocket science. I think it's fairly simple, provided people accept it. Yeah.
I think it's perfectly clear. So, well, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Mr. Jayaraman, for your time and attention. Kindly appreciate it.
Yeah.